Okay, so have you ever thought about, like, what a company does when demand goes through the roof, but everyone's saying there's a recession?
It's a good problem to have, but a problem nonetheless.
Yeah, and that's what we're diving into today
Yeah.
with this Harvard Business School case study on FoldRite Furniture.
Ah, FoldRite.
You know those eco-friendly tables and chairs that fold up?
I've seen those around. They're really cool.
Yeah, they're everywhere. So we're gonna try to figure out how they're dealing with this like wave of demand
Right.
and all the tough choices they got to make, and what does it all mean, for manufacturing in a world that seems like it's constantly changing.
Yeah, you've got to be able to adapt.
Yeah, and it's not just about furniture.
Right.
It's about problem solving
Right.
and those decisions that have like ripple effects way beyond the factory.
Absolutely. And I think what's interesting about FoldRite is they didn't just like pop up overnight.
Right.
They've been growing for years.
Yeah.
Like back in 99, they hit almost 48 million in revenue.
Right.
And then by 2006, they were over 60 million.
They were on a roll.
Yeah. But it hasn't always been easy.
Oh, I'm sure.
Material costs going up, staffing issues.
Yeah.
That impacted how much they could produce.
Makes sense.
And then 2008 hits.
The recession.
Yeah, the big one.
That was a rough time for everybody.
Absolutely.
But you know what's crazy is that even during that downturn,
Yeah.
they still made a profit in 2009, like a decent profit.
Wow. So they're doing something right.
They're definitely doing something right.
Yeah. And that's where their new CEO comes in, Marshall Epstein.
Okay.
He came from like a consumer goods background.
Oh, interesting.
So he had a fresh perspective.
Uh-huh.
And he set up 4 goals for FoldRite. Continuous innovation,
Okay.
being really responsive to customers.
Like on quality and speed.
Exactly, both of those. Lean manufacturing.
Got to keep things efficient.
You got it.
Yeah.
And a stable workforce.
That's huge.
Absolutely. But these weren't just like, words on a poster.
Right.
They actually put these goals into action. They streamlined their product lines and consolidated their manufacturing.
So they were getting rid of anything that wasn't working?
Basically, it freed up capital and made their whole process sharper.
Smart.
Yeah.
Really smart.
So they're like ready to take on the world.
Well, it's 2010 now, and all of a sudden everyone wants this new chair they have.
The cloud chair.
That's the one. But it's still a recession, technically.
Oh, wow. That's got to be tough. How do you grow when things are still so uncertain?
Yeah, that's the tension the case study really highlights. It's
Yeah.
a problem lots of companies face, I bet.
Yeah, for sure. So where is all this demand coming from?
Well, there's the hype around the cloud chair itself.
Okay, new product buzz.
Right. Then you've got this big event supplier who wants to stock up.
Oh, wow.
And then, of course, it's spring and summer, so that's their busy season anyway.
So like a perfect storm.
Yeah, and their sales VP, Anthony Fasano, he's like walking a tightrope.
I bet. Excited about the demand, but worried they can't keep up. Yeah, exactly. He's afraid competitors are going to swoop in if
Yeah.
they're too slow.
That makes sense. So before we go any further,
Yeah.
who are all the players here?
So we'll be hearing from Fasano, from sales,
Oh.
Ellis Young, she's the CFO,
All right.
and then there's Mary Jane Montague, who handles HR.
Okay, so sales, finance, and HR, that's like the trifecta.
Right. And they've got this sales projection of over 65 million for 2010.
Whoa, that's a huge jump.
Right. But the CFO has to think about, the risks.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And the
Okay,
cost.
so for every decision.
Right. And then HR has to make sure they have enough people to meet this demand.
Yeah, so many moving parts.
It is. So let's talk about this cloud chair that everyone wants. It's stylish, comfortable, and they designed it to work for pretty much everybody.
They were thinking ahead?
I think so.
Yeah.
It hits all the trends like eco-conscious consumers wanting to customize stuff.
Yeah.
Plus, they can deliver it fast, which their overseas competitors can't do.
Yeah, that's got to be a huge advantage, especially if that event supplier wants a bunch of chairs quickly.
Right. But can they actually deliver?
Yeah, that's the question. To figure that out, we need to look at how they make these chairs.
Right. So they use high-quality materials.
Okay.
They have skilled and unskilled workers.
Okay.
A 4-day work week, so that's efficient.
That's nice.
And they're really dedicated to quality control.
You know what's interesting? FoldRite is really proud that they manufacture in the U.S.
Oh, yeah. I've heard that. It's not always easy to compete with overseas costs.
Right, but they're showing that it can be done.
It's impressive.
Yeah, and it says a lot about their commitment to their workers. So how are they going to, ramp up production to meet this demand?
That's the million-dollar question.
It is. So the case study lays out a few options.
Okay, lay it on me.
Overtime is one.
Sure, more hours.
But that gets expensive and it could burn people out.
Yeah, and we know that impacts quality.
Plus, from an HR standpoint,
Yeah,
you can't expect people to work overtime forever.
it's not sustainable.
Right. Then there's hiring more people.
Yeah, more hands on deck.
But that takes time.
To find the right people and train them.
And then what if demand goes down?
You have to lay people off.
And that's tough, especially for a company that prides itself on stability.
It would really hurt morale.
It's like they built this great company culture.
Yeah.
And now they're in a tough spot.
Let's dive into the numbers a bit.
Okay.
So they're skilled workers, the ones who really know how to build the cloud chair.
Uh-huh.
They make about $19 an hour plus benefits.
Okay, that's not bad.
And then the unskilled workers,
Still learning.
yeah, they're at about $9 an hour,
Okay.
also with benefits. But then each time they hire a new skilled worker, it costs them like $1,500.
Just to hire them?
Yeah, just for the hiring process.
Hmm.
Then you've got interviews and training.
So it adds up.
It does. And you can't just expect someone new to be as productive as someone who's been there a while.
Right, they're still getting up to speed.
Exactly. The case study says new hires are only about 80% efficient for like their first 4 weeks.
That makes sense.
It takes time to learn the ropes.
So even if they hire a bunch of people,
Yeah.
it's not an instant solution.
No, it's not.
It makes you think about those 4 goals again.
Absolutely. Those are key.
Like they're trying to build something for the long haul.
Right. And let's not forget they've got profit sharing
Oh, yeah, I read about that.
and bonuses for good attendance and performance.
Well, they're rewarding people for showing up and doing a good job.
Exactly. And they even have ways for those unskilled workers to move up to those higher paying skilled jobs.
So there's room for growth.
Yeah, they're invested in their employees.
It's a smart approach.
I think so. It creates a good environment.
But even with all that,
Yeah.
they're still stuck with this cloud shared dilemma.
Mm.
Overtime is costly, hiring takes time,
And could lead to layoffs down the road.
which nobody wants.
It would be bad for their image, too, after saying how much they value a stable workforce.
Yeah, talk about mixed messages.
Yeah. So what about redesigning the chair?
Oh, yeah, we talked about that. Maybe they can shave off some of the assembly time.
Make things more efficient.
It sounds like it could help with those lean manufacturing goals.
Right. But the case study says a redesign would cost like 15 grand.
Oof, that's not nothing.
And it would take a month to implement.
A whole month.
Yeah, that's a long time when you're trying to catch a wave.
Like they could miss out on all those sales.
That's the risk. And even with a better design, they're still limited by how many skilled workers they have.
True. So it's not a perfect fix.
Yep.
What about subcontracting?
Oh, yeah. That's an interesting one. It gives them flexibility.
Like they could scale up or down quickly depending on demand.
Exactly. Without having to hire and fire people all the time.
Sounds good in theory.
But there are downsides.
Like what?
Well, quality control can be tricky.
When you're relying on someone else to make your product.
Right. You're trusting them to meet your standards.
And if they mess up?
It could hurt FoldRite's reputation.
Yeah, that's a big risk. And what about the whole made in the USA thing?
That's another issue. Would customers care if some of the chairs were made somewhere else?
That's a good question.
They have to be really transparent about it.
So subcontracting is not a simple solution either.
It's got its own baggage.
And we know the CFO is not a fan of building inventory.
She does not like that idea.
It goes against their whole lean manufacturing philosophy.
That ties up a lot of money.
And what if demand drops?
They're stuck with all those chairs.
So it's risky. So basically, they've got 5 options.
Overtime, hiring, redesign, subcontracting,
That building inventory.
and none of them are perfect.
This is getting complicated.
It is. But that's where those 4 goals come in. Continuous innovation, customer responsiveness, lean manufacturing, a stable workforce.
We have to look at each option through that lens.
Exactly. Which ones support their long-term vision?
And which ones are just quick fixes that could cause problems later?
Right. We can't forget about the people either.
The workers.
Yeah. How will each decision affect them?
It's a lot to think about.
It is. But this is where it gets interesting.
Okay.
We have all the pieces of the puzzle.
Now we have to see how they fit together.
And that's why these case studies are so great,
You get to see how decisions are made in the real world.
with all the messiness and complexity.
So what would you do?
If I were the CEO.
Yeah. What would be your top priority? All right. So we've got the challenges, the numbers, the options. Now it's time to play CEO.
Put on those executive hats. Let's see if we can crack this case.
We've got those 4 goals to guide us right. Innovation, customer focus, lean manufacturing, and a stable workforce.
Right. Which options check those boxes and which ones don't?
Okay, overtime. Seems like a quick way to meet demand, keep those customers happy. But,
Short-sighted.
yeah, can burn people out, hurt quality.
Plus, it pushes up those labor costs. not very lean.
So overtime, not a long-term solution.
I don't think so.
What about hiring more people?
More workers seems like it would support a stable workforce.
It would, but hiring takes time.
And they need those chairs now.
Plus the cost of hiring, and what if demand drops later?
Layoffs. Not exactly a sign of stability.
Okay, what about redesigning the chair?
Make it faster to build. I like that.
Could be a win for lean manufacturing, maybe even spark some new ideas.
But a month to implement, that's a long time.
They could miss out on those early sales.
And they're still limited by how many skilled workers they have.
Okay, so redesigning, it's a gamble.
High risk, high reward.
What about subcontracting then? Get some outside help.
Flexible, for sure. They could scale up and down as needed.
No need to worry about hiring and firing.
But you're putting your trust in another company.
Yeah, what about quality control?
Big concern. And what will customers think?
Outsourcing part of their Made in the USA product?
They'd have to be really open about it if they went that route.
So subcontracting has its own issues, and building inventory is a no-go.
Not with their CFO.
She wouldn't like that one bit.
Goes against everything they stand for.
So no easy answers then. Just a bunch of tough choices.
That's business in a nutshell, right?
It's making me think, this isn't just about FoldRite.
It's bigger than that.
So many companies are facing this same dilemma.
Short-term gain versus long-term sustainability. How do you make everyone happy? Employees, customers, investors.
It's a balancing act for sure.
And that's why we do these deep dives.
Makes you really think about the impact of these decisions.
It's not just about the bottom line. It's about the ripple effects.
Well, we've given you plenty to think about. Now we want to hear from you. What would you do if you were running FoldRite? What would be your priority?
Head over to our website. Let us know your thoughts.
And that's a wrap. Thanks for joining us for another deep dive.
Always a pleasure.